I will call upon very, very choshev. I'm not undertaking to introduce Rabbi Palm, but when I came to the yeshiva, Rabbi Palm, I was in the bloodshot. Rabbi Palm was already in the Besmevis, and it was from the very, very, very best Talmidim. I mean, it's
כבוד ראש הישיבה שלי איתו, כבוד מורנו ורבונו, בכל הכל הקודש הזה. I've been asked to speak in English. I'd like to start with a pasuk from next week's Seder. And we'll come around to the Inyan HaNeshef. In the beginning of Vayeshev, it says that Yankif sent Yosef liros b'shloim echov vayishlochehu me'emek Chevron. Rashi asks the kasha, Chevron was Behor, not Be'emek. Rashi says, Me'emek Chevron, Me'etzo Amuko, Shel Oisei Tzadik, Akovo B'Chevron. The inyan of sending Yosef to see his brothers, to go in a Mokim Sakona, and from that was Nishtalshel, the whole inyan of Goles Mitzrayim. And Rashi says, Takim Eitz Amuko Shaloiset Tzadik Akovu B'Chevron Lekayim Ashenemar Avrohom Kiger Yir Zaracho Eretz Leilahem. The Loshen Eitz Amuko Shel Oisei Tzadik. What's the pshat? Whose Eitz Amuka was it? Eitz Amuka was from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why is it attributed to Avrohom Avinu? Shel Oisei Tzadik. So it would seem from that there were other ways of implementing the exile of Bein Absorim. But the schus from Avrohom Avinu demanded that it should be implemented just in this particular way. Schus shel Avrohom Avinu gormo lechach. And Bechlal, what is the Eitz HaMukah? A profound plan. I often thought I could do it in a simpler way. Much less complicated. After the Maaseh of Shimon and Levi, what they did to Shem, so naturally all the Umas of that area, the Knaanim, should have pursued them, attacked them, made milchomes with them. The Torah says, "Vayichita solekim aleorim." Again, a specialness that they didn't attack the Bnei Yankiv. Now, it could have been simply that they did attack them, which is the most natural thing to do, and Yankiv escaped to Mitzrayim. So here we get them into Mitzrayim in a very simple and natural way. But Nes verklage soll, als ich für nicht die Welt. The problem was not how to get them into Mitzrayim. The problem was how to get them to survive the Golas Mitzrayim. To get them in there, the Ben Yishloim could have had many, many ways. In fact, he doesn't need any aids from me or anybody else. But the problem was, you send in a mishpoche to Eretz Mitzrayim, a land von Stufei Zima, a land von Avodah Zorah. How do they maintain their identity? So the first thing, Yosef was put through a nisoyin of erva. And the Medrash says, B'shor shegodar Yosef es erva, godru b'nei Yisrael es erva b'Mitzrayim. That it was Yosef paved the way for the Bnei Yankov that they could withstand the immorality of Mitzrayim. As the Chazal say about the Ovis Bechlal, Maise Ovis, there are two nuschois in Medrash. One nusach is Sima Leboni, and one nusach is Yorshu Boni. Yorshu Boni means that they gave a koyach into Klal Yisrael. Avrohom Avinu gave the koyach into Klal Yisrael, the koyach of Mesiras Nefesh for Hashem. Yankov gave a koyach how to survive 20 years of Eis Lovon and come out Sholem B'Terose. Yosef implanted in Klal Yisrael the koyach of tznius under the most difficult nisyonis imaginable. So this was a prior condition. Before sending in the Bnei Yankov, sending him into Mitzrayim, prior condition was Yosef's koyach of tznius b'mokim nisoyim, moyerdika nisoyim. Then, how do you get them with this koyach of tznius alone? It's not enough. How do you get them to be oisik b'Torah? Living in Mitzrayim. So the Rebbe made Yosef Mishnah L'Melech, and he picked him a place out of the center, Goshen, and he supported them totally. And they could sit 70 years with absolute menucha. Yosef pays all the bills. And we sitzt in the Beis HaTalmud. Yankov is the Rosh Yeshiva. Yehuda is the Menayel from the Beis HaTalmud. And Yosef pays everything. It's the first 70 years of being in Mitzrayim. There was a provision of an absolute ideal place, ideal situation. Aber so können Sie es nur lernen. Oisig sein bei Torah. Meine Seide, der Schädle Zorov, der Verein der Broche, hat gesagt, bederech Tzachus, steht al Tiro, Yankov al Meredo Mitzrayim. Yankov was afraid to take his family into Mitzrayim. So the Rabbi said to him, V'Yosef Yoshes Yode Aleinecha. He said, with your Eino Pkicha and Yosef's Yad, don't worry. That's a chelik, I believe, of the Eitz or Hamukah that we can see. Rabbi Nishlam's Eitz are many and so comprehensive that we can only maybe see a mashihu. But this mashu is what I think we can see. It was an Eitzo Amuko to make sure that they can survive in Mitzrayim and be B'nai Mitzrayim and be B'nai Yankov. To be Mekayim the Ger Yeh Zaracho was much less of a problem. That was the problem. And that was the schus from Avrohom Avinu. The Eibishter promised him as so this schus from Avrohom Avinu, this is the way it had to happen. So be'etzu hamuka shelo yisod tzadik hakova b'chevron lekayem ma shenemer, and the soif posek ba'achechen yetzu b'chush godel. Before the first, the Churban of Bayis Rishon, Yud Aleph Shona, 11 years prior to the Churban Bayis Rishon, it was the Golus Yechonia. The Golus Yechonia was a Chorosh ve'hamazger, the Talmidei Chachamim. They were sent ahead of the main body of Klal Yisrael. They were sent ahead for what purpose? Before the Bnei Yisrael go into Bavel, again, there's the problem of how can they survive. Torn from Eretz Yisrael, Eretz HaKodesh, away from the Beis HaMikdash. After such a horrible churban, they're going to come into Bavel. The Kasdim, how are they going to survive? So the Rebbe Shlim sent ahead the Chachmei HaTorah, and they established the Koimes HaTorah. Ad kedei kach, that Rabbi Yochanan once said to Rav Kahana, who came from Bavel, and he spoke in learning with him. So he said, Sovel hoyisi, I used to think, he said it to his Talmidim, Rabbi Yochanan, she Torah shalachem, the future of Torah is yours, shalegelisa me'artzechem, you never went into Golus. You're learning in Eretz Yisrael. Avrohom shehi shel bnei Bavel. I see that the center of Torah is in Bavel. She'af al pi shegolu omdo lehem chochmas hachorosh v'hamazger shegolu im yechonim. That's due to the chochmas hachorosh v'hamazger where they planted b'koimes HaTorah. So we see Hashgocha Protis for Kiyum HaTorah, which is Kiyum Yisrael. I once heard a taich from one of the Chachmei HaMusar. He said, Shemer Amo Yisrael, Rabbeinu Shalom God, the Nitzchi Lo'ad. Shemer Amo Yisrael Lo'ad. The Rabbeinu Shalom protects the Nitzchius from Amo Yisrael. The eternity of Am Yisrael. Shemer Amo Yisrael Lo'ad. To go a little closer to our time, it's still not very close, about 1,000 years ago, the Arbor Shvuyim, Bavuste Arbor Shvuyim, when the center of Torah in Bavel was beginning to decline, after the great Gaonim, among the last Rav Hai Gaon, the center was beginning to decline. So there was a Maisi with Arbor Shvuyim, for Gidolei HaTorah, Adirei HaTorah, Arzei Lovanei. were traveling together overseas. It's not clear for what purpose. There are different nuschois. For what purpose? 4 Gedolei Olam were together sailing the seas. And pirates captured the ship. And who were the 4? One was Rabbeinu Chushiel, the father of Rabbeinu Hananel. Another one was Reb Moshe and his son Chanoich, Ge'enu Olam. The third one was Shmaryahu. And the fourth one, it's not known who is the fourth one. But one of the Gedolei Olam. When the ship was captured, they were brought to different ports for ransom. So Rabbeinu Hananel, Rabbeinu Chushiel, the father, was ransomed in Africa, and he established a gewaltigen center von Torah in Karawan, where the Rif lived there. It became one of the strongest centers of Torah through Rabbeinu Chushiel and his son Rabbeinu Hananel, and then the Rif and other Chachmei Torah. Rabbeinu Meiri Megash from the Rambam learned. Reb Moshe and his son, they were ransomed in Cordova. And from that time on, Cordova was the great center of Torah in Spain. The Rambam learned in Cordova. And the whole Tkufa, which is called in history the Torah Hazor, the golden era, the golden age, the center of it was Cordova, Spain. And from there Torah spread to Ashkenaz, to the Chachmei Ashkenaz, Chachmei Tzorfas. The third one, Ishmael ben Ishmael, was in Mitzrayim. He was ransomed in Mitzrayim. And we know at that time Mitzrayim was a great center of Torah. Alexandria, more talks about it. So again we see the Hashgacha Pratis, that before V'vo HaShemesh v'Zorach HaShemesh, V'Zorach HaShemesh v'Vo HaShemesh, Ad Shel Yishok HaShimsha Shel Eile, Zorach HaShimsha Shel Shmuel HaRamosi. You see, Meredik Hashgacha Pratis, Rabbeinu Shalom, is the Shomer Amo Yisrael Oad, the Nitzchias of Torah and the Nitzchias of Klal Yisrael. Coming very close to our time, before the Shoah, the Churban of Europe, of the whole Yishuv of Eretz, of Bnei Yisrael in Europe, the Meredik HaChurban Shlo Yehoyo K'moisei b'Yisrael, and the beetle of all the yeshivas, the Gedolei, the Amoyredik Tkufe, von 1000 Jahr Torah in Europa. Meredik Tkufe, wiped out in the course of a few years, totally destroyed the other centers from Torah. And not only that, the Chachmei Torah. Nishmedu v'ne'ergu ba'achzorius visis mishunas Hashem Yirachem. But prior to that, he sent a few of the Gedolei Torah to America. He sent them ahead to start a new Mokim Torah. as well known that Reb Chaim Volozhin Zechron Levrocha said, as before, Bias Mashiach, America will be the center of Torah. So he sent ahead Shluchei Rachmona to establish in this Midbar Shmoma, Eretz Lo Yizruah, to start planting seeds which will develop into a great Olam HaTorah. And unser Rebbe was that shliach, among a few others. Shluchei Rachmona. I'm not going to mention other names because for fear that I leave out perhaps one. Chamer sich soll nicht nichschel werden bei der Scheine und bei sich rein, im schon ein alter Ried. So sie können nicht wie sie gewesen. But the Rebbe was certainly one of these Shluchei Rachmona. If we see Torah today, he certainly has a great chelik in the expansion of Torah today, with so many moizdes HaTorah, so many koilalim, reflecting mamish a total dedication to limud HaTorah, avas Torah, and a growing, Baruch Hashem, a growing Olam HaTorah, which is l'shem u'l'siferes. And the Rebbe Zechron Levrocha was very misugel for this shlichus. To be madlik the Oyer HaTorah b'leiv Talmidov. The chiba letalmidov, the ahava, the warmth, mamish. When we speak, especially at the Yahrtzeit, we see the must yukne lefanenu. And there's a shot of warmth that runs through us. We recall personal warmth, achiba yisrael, and the covet for each Talmud. I can't get over it when I think about it. I was less than 15 years old when I entered his shir. And right away he called me Ir. He speaks to me Ir. Nicht du. As v'sholem, nicht du. Dresses me as Ir. Naturally, that makes you feel like you're somebody. And his whole attitude. If we saw us shmuyasing sometime in the afternoon, say, he wouldn't go over and say to us, Rabbi Isai. He was walking up and down the Bismillah and cast an eye once, twice. I thought, much you wish what this meant. But he never would say anything. He says, as Mizair, ich käme zu gehen zu sagen, jenem Tichocho. The house was open all hours of the day and night. So the and the covet he tied us to Torah, to the cheshek, to learn Torah, and to be misgadol, and aspire to godless Torah. The shiur itself, the blood shiur, was fascinating, mamish fascinating. It wasn't somebody saying and somebody listening. It was a joint project. Everyone participated. He challenged everyone. He wanted to hear from everyone. But there wasn't a dull moment. He always ran over the time. The last 5 minutes he would say, "No, man darf auch übermischen den Blatt, man darf etwas ablernen." I think his purpose in that it was maybe a twofold purpose. It says in Shulchan Aruch, in the Siman that talks about the dinim of a Talmid l'Rav, stam to a Talmid Chacham, the dinim from a Rav Muvhok, special halachos for a Rav of a Talmid l'Rav Muvhok. And in Gemara, we well know the Gemara Sofer Metzias, who is called a Rav Muvhok. There are 3 days. The halacha is the Rabbi Yehuda, and shekol sheroiv chochmose heimena. So the Ramah says, Bizmanenu Rav Muvhok hu, I don't remember exactly the words, but this is pretty closely to it. Shelimdoi ho'iyun ve'emide al ha'emes. Ve'emide al ha'emes. What's the pshat bizmanenu? What's the psandash? So the teretz is poshet. Today we learn mostly from Sforim. Amolat megelernt Torah shebal peh kipshutei. Torah shebal peh kipshutei. Talmid was mekabel from his Rebbe. There were no Sforim. So Rav Muvhok is kol sheroiv chochmas imen. But today we have many Rebbeim. We have the Gemara, the Meforshei HaGemara, the Rishonim, the Achronim. We learn from all of them. So who is today Rav Muvhok? The one who teaches him how to learn. The one is Peseach de Pesach. He gives him the Yesodis of Havona. He should think straight. He should learn Be'iyun and think straight. Be among them. Ve'amide al ha'emes. And he's a maimid al ha'emes. Soll sich nicht narren, soll keiner mich narren. He should get to the real meaning of what he learns. Verstehen gründlich. Klar. So that's why he encouraged the total participation of the Talmidim, and he listened carefully to what they had to say, and if it was nicht zu der Sache, if it was not alo emes, not be'iyun, he would correct, he would straighten out his thinking. And that was a Zikr Limud. He didn't cover much ground. But because that wasn't his purpose. His purpose was a wegstellen a Talmid. Soll a gleiche Kopf, a gesunde Kopf, a gesunden Trachten in Lernen. Soll trachten wie alle anderen. Wie jedoch Ziel gemäuer. Es fällt nicht mehr forschen, es fällt nicht, wie schön ihr kennt den Tag rein. Aber geht zu lernen wie a Benteil. Wie a Bar Havana. The second thing is, Itaka wanted active participation because only through that it develops first of all a Geschmack in Lernen. And by active participation, it's niklat in your mind, in your zikor, by active participation. So that was his derech of giving a shir, challenging the Talmud, and bring out his koiches, develop his koiches or iyun. And part of that was, of course, everyone knows, tonight is Thursday night. The Thursday nights, after 10:30, when the senior Talmidim were asked each one in turn to say Ashtikl Chabura. And the Rebbe sat there till 1 o'clock, sometimes 1:30, listening, and Dingenzer, he was sweet and warm and loving as he was, but when it came to the Shtikl Torah, it wasn't easy to get a haskama from him. It wasn't easy at all, because the emes of Torah was his whole purpose in developing Talmidim. Emes in Torah. And that was a big help to straighten out our machshavos. You couldn't get by Stamaze with and the Rebbe is a gutinker at the Gebma Haskom. Oh no. Another very, very big factor in his Hatzlocha, in his kashrus from the Talmidim LeTorah. We have to remember that 50 years ago, there were hardly any Bnei Torah to speak of, any Bnei Yeshiva, any Bnei Yeshiva. Even the Frume Balabatim felt that a Yeshiva Ktana is enough. I remember when Chaim Berlin was going to open up the Mesivta, some of the finest Balabatim resisted it. They said, what do we need that for? We have a Yeshiva Ktana. If somebody wants to be a rabbi, so there's a Yeshiva Sabitz Kol Chodem. It's not going to make in college, it's not going to make in university. If somebody wants to be a rabbi, we have Yeshiva Sabitz Kol Chodem. That's for rabbis. Who needs a high school? So the few high schools there were, Shiva Tevadas, Chaim Berlin came later. Were very few Talmidim in the Besmedrash, on the Besmedrash level. Hardly. And I must say we were lonely. Right? Today, halb Welt, Yeshivas, wer redt von High Schools, wer redt von Besmedrisch, Keulelim, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Today one feels great. There's a great machne from Bnei Torah. It's a covet and it's a pleasure to be in that machne HaTorah. But in those days, it was lonely. Very lonely. But the Rebbe connected us with the Mosdes HaTorah, with the Yeshivas Gedolos in Europe, by Tziyurim, constantly talking about Slabodkin, about Radin, about the Chofetz Chaim. He made us feel that we are a part of a great Olam HaTorah. Unfortunately, it's not here b'mkoimenu yet. We first have to establish it here. But his stories and his tziyurim, and he was a gewaldiker Messiah with the Torah, Olam HaTorah, the Yeshiva in Slabodke. I remember once he even was telling us, wie man macht ein Stickel Torah. Wie macht man ein Stickel Torah? Wie man geht zu der Gemorre, zu dem Rambam, in the Schweiß, in the schweren Kopf. He was Messiah. Machen ein Stickel Torah. And then the Simcha, am Hotep zu sagen in Torah. Die gewaltige Simcha. And in describing life in the Yeshivas Gedolos, and the great Rosh Yeshiva, and the Chachmei HaTorah, Mamish made us feel, as it says in Malachim, when Elisha was surrounded by Avrohom, a big army of Avrohom came to capture Elisha, and the Nar, Elisha's Gabbai, looked out and he saw what's doing outside. So Mamashi was terrified. So Elisha said to him, don't worry, he said, Ki Rabbi masher itonu masher isom. We have a greater army. And he was mispalad to Hashem. He said, P'kachnos eni anah. And when his eyes were opened, he saw Susi v'rechev eish min hashemayim gvaldi. So through these tziyurim, through these sipurim, he brought us into the world of Torah in Europe. And we saw Kerabi Masher Itonu. Never mind the gas in America, and all the bochrim, and all the going to college, and nobody had any thoughts of staying in Torah for long. The ideal was to be an engineer, a doctor, Choch, a public school teacher. Choch does. So he made us feel, Rabbi Masher Itonu, there's a whole world of Torah. And he's depicting the simcha of being a Malamed Torah, a Marbitz Torah. There's nothing greater than that. There's no greater tachlis. There's no greater joy. There's no greater olam hazeh than that. And of course the Shmuyesin. The Musar. The Yesodis for Musar. Tikkun Hamidos. And he analyzed that like Rabbi Gemara. He gave it the Zelbe Chashivus. And he encouraged me so fragen. Wat zich etwas zu dingen, denkt So in this way, it was madlik, the ambition to grow in Torah, and the top achievement is to be a Malamed Torah. Reb Henoch soll gesund sein, der Mamale Mokim is Mamshich, the same derech, same type of shear, the same stress on Musa, the same demanding participation, same derech, same derech. And Mamish is the Yesod that there's no greater tachlis than being Moiser Torah is so evident. By Rabbi Henoch soll gesund sein, is Mamish Magdish so many koiches, gewaldig, to train yeshiva-lites, to train the B'nai Yeshiva, B'nai Torah for one shlichus. This is that Tzvu Hashem, which has to go out and combat the ignorance, the amaratzes, the chisorin of a taste of Torah. And the ideal is to go somewhere, no matter where it is, in hick towns, no matter where it is, to kindle a light of Torah. The yeshiva Chofetz Chaim is known especially for this drive to bring Torah to outlying communities. And the whole hashpor is geared in that direction. This is mamish a continuation of the Rebbe's Yesod. What we mentioned before, the chiyuvim of a Talmid to a Rav Stam and to a Rav Muvhak. And a Rav Muvhak is the one who stellt weg auf dem Derech HaTorah. Shalimdei ho'iyun ve'emidei al ha'emes. Now there's an interesting chiluk in the chiyuvim to Stam Rebbe or a Rav Muvhak. For a Stam Rebbe, you're mechuyev to stand up, only when he's in the Dalet Amos. For a Rav Muvhak, Maloi Einov. Now there's a big kasha. What's the reason why you're not mechuyev to stand up for a Stam Rebbe or a Stam Talmid Chochem if he's further than the Dalet Amos? So Rashi explains, because it's not Nika that he stood up for him. If he's further away, it's not Nika. If it's not Nika, so what if it's a Rav Muvhak, but it's not Nika? Let's say there's a größere Chiyuv to Rav Muvhak. But what's the pula? It's nicht Nika. So the Brisker Rov said, Sidot Zvei Chiyuvim. One, Kibbutz, Kvei Talmid Chochem, and Sido Achiyuv from Moiro Rabbo. So Hashem Alekecha Tiro, the Rabbi Talmidei Chachomim, Pesach says in Bavakama, Rav Muvhak. It's Hashem Alekecha Tiro. So for a Rav, so Stam Rebbe or the Stam Talmid Chochem, there's a Chiyuv mitzad Kibbutz. Hidu, without a Pnei Zoking. But for a Rav Muvhak, there's a chiyuv from Moiro. Moiro is the type, if you see the Rebbe chveis from Vanet, from Merochik, Maloi Einov, how can you not be Nisoira? Moiro must be aroused. Oh, ich sehe den Rebbe von der Weitens. Rebbe. Was ist gekommen, weil ich so mit Männern? Kann das sein? Das ist ein Chiyuv von Moiro. You need gescheinlich to say Nika, it's a nit Nika. But it's had moira. That gave me a heibuf. Yahrtzeit, I feel, is a bchine from moira, from Malay Einov. He's not in the Daladamos. But Yahrtzeit, when we think about it, it's a bchine from Malay Einov. Bezete merochik, 50 Jahre zurück. Malay Einov. Aber für ein Rabbi Mover darf man sich geben ein Heibuf. Malay Einov. Es ist für uns, die Talmiden, sicher gewesen, zu sein beim Chitzose. And if not for him, I can speak only for myself. I doubt if I would have stayed in Olam HaTorah, in Olam HaChinuch. Everybody had different ideas, and different ideas. But the Rebbe, in his kashrus to him, kept us in the Olam HaTorah. So die Talmidim, some Gades hier, zu sein beim Chitzose, und zu nehene sein, Poshet von der persönlichen Warmkeit, der Chiba, die Neimus, die ganze Neimus. In der Tag von der Yahrtzeit, wenn wir sehen, im Roim Einer, darf man sich aufheben. Allerweise, wenn wir sehen, the further expansion of Torah, and what anyone can do to contribute to that, be the greatest nachas ruach for Nishmosai begins in Roim.
I'm sure that my task is exceedingly difficult. Obviously, besides the lateness of the hour, to follow